if you had called me yet. So I am Senator Cindy Carlson, District 7. We are grateful and excited to be here to present House Concurrent Resolution 2. Today is the National Girls and Women's Day in Sports. It seems fitting to present this resolution to this committee on this unique day. We are celebrating the courage of our Boise State women's volleyball team for their stance refusing to play against San Jose State, part of the Mountain West Conference, but who also was playing with a male on their team. With me is Representative Barbara Ehart, who has championed the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, not just in Idaho, but across the nation. I'd like to turn the rest of the time over to her.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Ehart. This is right in your wheelhouse, isn't it?
It is. I am Representative Barbara Ehart from District 33, which essentially is Bonneville County. Mr. Chairman, good committee, thank you. It is in my wheelhouse, and I was involved in part of that process. We do have Boise State here, just to listen. They've been incredibly supportive, obviously. And let me just start before I get in a couple of key points, just to point out. Riley Gaines had wanted to be here. She testified via Zoom with us on the House side. Had been planning this, but silly me, I forgot this being National Girls and Women's Day in Sports, that today President Trump will be signing an executive order in regards to this. Riley Gaines is there. I do believe our governor is there. He was incredibly supportive of all of this and instrumental in, I would say, in the things that happened and went forward. And so what we'd like to do, and just so we can keep it on the record and also share with all of you, is just quickly, not to take up too much of your time, but just recount a little bit of what happened. As the good senator pointed out, that the Mountain West, as what's happened in many conferences in the NCAA, ended up in one of our major sports, volleyball, with a male playing on the team. And that's not fair to women. It's also very dangerous. Volleyball being one of those, one of my friends, Peyton McNabb, played high school volleyball. You might have heard of her 2 years ago, where she got hit by a male volleyball player in high school, knocked her out, brain bleed, paralyzed part of her body, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a very dangerous thing to be playing against a male who also typically plays on a net 7 inches higher. Title IX was passed in 1972, and it was definitely something that prohibited sex-based discrimination. You should know that back in prior to 1972, 1 in 27 girls participated in high school sports. And since Title IX went into effect, 2 in 5 girls play, which is almost 1,000% increase. And at the collegiate level, that's an increase of 545%. It's amazing and astounding. September 28th, Boise State first decided, that was their first game against San Jose State, and decided that they would not play at San Jose State, and they canceled that game. Everybody wondered what would happen November 21st with their second game here in Boise when San Jose State was to come here. But if you were following anything, the governor put out an interesting tweet saying he knew what would happen, because this summer he did an executive order, of which I was happy to be part of, basically saying we would not be in Idaho, we'd not be competing against men. But here's the kicker, my friends, the real courage that I believe Boise State, and why we want to honor our Boise State women, came the third time. No other member in the conference forfeited a game 3 times. It was Boise State. During the Mountain West tournament, they beat Utah State in the first round. The Mountain West tournament, they didn't have a runaway team. They were all pretty even. So Boise State, I believe, had as much an opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament as anyone else. But it took a heck of a lot of courage and a heck of a lot of integrity for those women and that team, and really the entire Boise State campus, to, when I said Boise State administration and all, to say, you know what, we're going to stay true to that which we've done. And they decided to forfeit that game. In this resolution, Mr. Chairman, you'll also see, though, as we recount and honor them, the resolution also calls out the Mountain West. It's shameful that Boise State had to go through that. The Mountain West, and this was something, assuming it passes all the way, will be sent to the Mountain West. We also call out the NCAA. We call out Charlie Baker, the NCAA president. Charlie Baker could have put a stop to this, and Charlie Baker has not done that. The other thing that's disturbing is right before Christmas, Charlie Baker was before one of the Senate committees, and it's just kind of funny for me to think of what Senator Kennedy told him, but if you don't mind my saying, Senator Kennedy told him he needed to go on Amazon and buy himself a spine. So, but it was during this that once again Charlie Baker, NCAA President Charlie Baker, essentially said that he's waiting for direction from the federal government. But what I purport to tell him and what we say in here, you've received direction from 25 states. 25 states have told you what to do. It's time to get with it. So as much as anything, this kind of unique, we do resolutions, I think a lot, but this is one that I definitely think is near and dear to my heart, took a heck of a lot of courage. And I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, being willing to take it up. I also want to make clear to everybody that you were waiting on me, that we thought this would be a good day to bring it on National Girls and Women's Day in Sports. And I don't know that there are questions. But if I could, since I couldn't get Riley Gaines, I do have a mother of a player with me, and because I know you're not really taking testimony, so she's going to be part of our group, if that's okay, whose daughter played, and she just wanted to share with you a couple of her thoughts.
Actually, we will be taking
Oh,
testimony.
you will be taking testimony. Please forgive me then. I'd misunderstood that. So if there are questions, I'd certainly answer them, but I think I probably have covered everything that's in there.
Yeah, don't see any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I do have.
Oh, sorry, Senator Ruffey.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, my understanding is there's about 510,000 NCAA athletes. How many trans athletes are there?
Representative Ehart.
And Mr. Chairman, good Senator, that's one of those catch-all questions, and to us it really doesn't matter. The fact that we had one in the Mountain West that our women had to play against is one too many. Certainly, Mr. Good Senator, the number is growing, and we don't have an exact number, but we're hearing about it all the time. It's not a one-off.
Mr. Chairman,
Follow
just
up.
to follow up. If I represented to you that the number is 10, would you have any data or information to refute that?
Representative Ehart.
Mr. Chairman, good Senator, we would refute that, and but that's not what we're here to do. We're here to honor our Boise State women.
Come on, Earhart.
Don't see any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's
This
go
is
with Tristan Pinkerton.
anti-transgender right out of the Trump administration and the Koch brothers. And
Welcome to
Howard.
committee, and introduce yourself for the record. Then you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Tristan Pinkerton. I will be representing myself. I stand before you as a transgender, non-binary person to tell you all that I stand firmly against this resolution. My experience living as openly as I can in Idaho has not been easy. Me and my friends, my trans friends, live in constant fear of our rights as free Americans constantly being taken away. I have so many stories of just sheer amounts of hate being spewed and levied against those that I love for the simple fact that they don't fit into the mold of what the Idaho state and federal governments have deemed natural or good. That's where I stand as a citizen of Boise and as a citizen of Idaho. Now, for this, I won't just read the statistics that the president, Charlie Baker, as was previously stated, as saying that there are 10 transgender athletes out of over 500,000. I won't just say that the Boise State University's volleyball team beat San Jose State last year when they had the same player on their team who was being reported as transgender. I won't list the qualifications that the NCAA places on transgender athletes so that there is no biological advantage over cisgender players. I won't even say that the athlete on San Jose's team referenced as a lone trans player has never stated publicly whether she is. It is only, I believe, levied against her by another teammate. I don't list the logical conclusions that one can make based on all of that evidence, namely that the idea that transgender athletes around the country have a distinct biological advantage is a complete and utter fiction, because I'm sure that has been heard before this government, before the federal government, and has been ignored. Right? This is in part about individual transgender athletes on sports teams. Then why did Ashton Genty not single-handedly lead us to beating Penn State? Why did Travis Hunter not, as part of some Herculean feat, take Colorado to the playoffs? Why did Dylan Gabriel and the Ducks choke when facing Ohio State again? Is it that it's teams that win games, not the lone athletes? And as stated before, the number of transgender athletes playing in college is nowhere near enough to dominate every single sport, including individual sports. I urge all members of this committee to block this resolution. I urge all members of this committee to turn your backs on the culture war that is that makes people ignore the present dangers of living in this country. And finally, I urge all citizens of Idaho attending this hearing in here and in the overflow room, do not let false claims of a transgender ideology, which is not an ideology, it's an identity, it's a personal identity.
If you could wrap up.
Yes, I am. Steer your eyes away from what is right in front of you. The trans people in your communities, whoever is listening, do not wish you harm. We love you. We must not only love our neighbors, we must protect them. I guess I'm open to questions as well.
Thank you for being in committee. Appreciate it. Grace Howitt.
Next.
Jenna Damron will be next. Welcome to committee. Introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Grace Howitt, and I serve as policy analyst for Idaho Family Policy Center. We support House Concurrent Resolution 2, and we thank the sponsors for bringing this resolution forward. Despite what we've been told in recent years, men and women are different. We are not physiologically the same. In fact, males have greater physiological advantages than women, and on the whole, men are bigger than women, they are faster than women, and they are stronger than women. So when woke ideologues demand that girls play against biological males posing as female, they strip real female athletes of their safety, their dignity, and the opportunities for which they've trained so hard.
There's 1.6 million.
That's why common
transgenders
sense
in the
Idahoans
United
support the
States.
BSU women's volleyball team.
They don't
A group
play
of
those
girls who
sports.
courageously
Usually
sacrificed their
they
once-in-a-lifetime
don't wanna do
opportunity to
this.
become
Come
champions,
on, this is
rather than face the gross inequity
this is a
of
heron
competing
or
against
is-
biological
or
males.
Stinking fish.
Our girls should never be compelled to choose between athletics on the one hand
Coming
and safety
right out
and
of
fair
the
play on the other.
anti-transgender.
With this in mind,
Bunch
I ask that
in,
you protect female athletes by voting to send
Trump
House Concurrent Resolution 2
bunch.
to the floor with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you for being in committee. I don't see any questions. Thank you. Jenna Damron. And then it'll be Misty Tolman after that. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Ooh, I need a bigger. Okay, good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jenna Damron. I'm a woman. I don't normally put this disclaimer on here, but I also want to say I think it's important to this committee that I was born as a female. I'm a lifelong athlete and lover of sports. I was a 4-year varsity swimmer in high school. In college, I played all kinds of intramural sports. Went on to play as an adult on women's soccer teams, rugby teams, co-ed leagues. I've been an active player and member of organizations like USA Rugby, USA Powerlifting, USA Swimming. I liked sports so much that I got a bachelor's degree in exercise science. And I've spent 18 years, starting from the age of 14, as a coach of swimming and competitive powerlifting. I've had the honor to share the field and the weightlifting platform with so many different types of people and so many different types of women. I've spent a considerable amount of time with women dedicated to their athletic betterment, and I stand today here in opposition of this bill. I participated in athletics alongside many different types of people my whole life, including trans women and trans men. I've had the wind knocked out of me on the rugby pitch by women who were 3 times my size. They were born female. I reject the idea that transgender women are somehow a danger to the rest of us. I've also
Good for you.
participated in co-ed sports along men. Almost my entire life, starting from the age of 6 when I played co-ed basketball, to now I'm 33 and I still play co-ed sports. I participated in weightlifting competitions against women who are taking performance-enhancing drugs and steroids, and I can say with full certainty that these women were stronger and more muscular than any trans woman I've ever met. Sports adds so much value and community to our lives at every level, from individual, recreational, to semi-professional and professional. I believe that the NCAA guidelines are fair. They represent 15 years of revision, strengthening, and research-backed methods. The NCAA implemented guidelines in 2010 for trans participation. The International Olympic Committee has allowed trans athletes at the highest level of competition since 2004, with only 1 trans woman competing. Charlie Baker did testify in Congress recently that there are less than 10 transgender athletes. This includes trans men, not just trans women. I don't know all of you personally, but I do know that there are no experts in hormones, athletics, or medicine on this committee. And I do know that the NCAA has a lot of experts that went into making their policy, including a board of governors, a committee on competitive safeguards and medical aspects of sports, They consulted sport-specific governing bodies, including international governing bodies.
And if you could wrap up.
Yes, and legal compliance experts, all kinds of athletic administrators, coaches, and students. The NCAA policy already deals with this issue, and it reflects a more expert-driven approach than this state legislature can possibly give. Not every trans woman who plays sports will play at the NCAA level. Many trans women who play sports don't meet the already really strict requirements from the NCAA. I'm happy to stand for questions if anybody has any.
Don't see any questions. Thank you. Misty Tolman, Riley O'Connor will be after. Hi.
Sorry. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Misty Delicarpini Tolman, and I'm the Idaho State Director for Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates, and we stand here in strong opposition to HCR-2. I did have a different testimony, but as I thought through the House committee hearing, there were some points that I wanted to bring up that refuted some things that were said there. Like a couple of people have already said, there are 510,000 NCAA athletes and only 10 of them being transgender. I want to point out that this represents less than 0.002%. I also want to point out that the typical testosterone levels for a cis woman range from 0.3 to 2, while cis men average 10 to 34. There's like a descriptor that I don't know what it means, but the numbers are what matter. It's NMOL. Importantly, 4.8% of elite cis female athletes naturally exceed 10, which is above the NCAA cap for transgender women athletes, and that's for cisgender women. This shows that the natural variation in testosterone levels are far more common than even the participation of transgender athletes in the NCAA. And so that just shows the limited scope. Science doesn't support this claim. If being transgender conferred an overwhelming advantage, trans women would dominate sports at all levels, and that's simply not happening. The fairness argument is selectively applied. Trans athletes are not the biggest threat to women's sports. There are disparities in access to coaching, facilities, and training resources. Nobody argues that athletes from wealthy school districts cheat when they compete against those from underfunded schools, even though those advantages are greater than individual biological factors. Transgender people have always played sports. Protecting women in sports means protecting all women. The solution to fairness in sports isn't exclusion. It's better funding, better access, better training, and support for all athletes. And lastly, I just want to say loud and clear to our trans community that you are loved, you are seen, and no legislative vote can take away the validity of your experience. Please vote no on this, and I stand for questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you for being in committee. Riley O'Connor. William Mitchell will follow. Welcome to committee. Just introduce yourself, who you represent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Riley O'Connor. I'm here today representing myself. I'm a resident of District 16 in Boise, and I urge you to vote no on House Concurrent Resolution 2. I do reject the virulent transphobia that is the basis of this resolution, but today would like to focus on 3 specific concerns. First, though it claims to reaffirm Title IX, the resolution calls upon the Mountain West Conference to no longer allow, quote, biological men to participate in women's sports. This is a call for the conference to restrict athletic participation based on biological sex, which is precisely what Title IX was intended to prohibit. In addition, according to the Idaho legislature as put forth in House Bill number 421 during the 2024 session, biological sex is based on what can be, quote, observed or clinically verified at or before birth. Applying that reasoning here, we're asking for school athletic policies to be built around observations of students' reproductive systems and secondary sex characteristics. This sets a dangerous and frankly disturbing precedent that is ripe for unintended consequences. In February of 2024, after a similar law was passed in Utah, a high school basketball player received death threats when a school board member speculated they might be transgender. That teenager was not, in fact, transgender, but did have to receive police protection. With this resolution, under the guise of protecting women, you are directly contributing to an unsafe environment for student athletes, especially women who have any genetic variation, who look or act a certain way, or who are especially accomplished at their sport. What's to stop a program, a coach, or apparently an opposing team from making unfounded accusations and assumptions about any player's sex? And the only way we'll have to verify, apparently, is by observing students' reproductive systems and secondary sex characteristics. Finally, as I review the text, I'm struck by line 15 on page 2, where it asserts that, quote, the states and the people have spoken. But it's not at all clear that the people of Idaho have spoken in favor of this resolution. In fact, in every public hearing for HCR-2, I've been struck by how few taxpaying Idaho citizens have shown up to support it. Nothing in this resolution has been approved or co-signed by a majority or even a meaningful number of Idaho voters, and I can't support the suggestion that it has. I urge the committee to vote no on this resolution.
Don't see any questions. Thank you for being in committee.
Thank you.
William Mitchell. And after that, April Cheney.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I have submitted some written information already today. I just want to supplement what's already in the record. You may be opposed to the policies that allow trans athletes to compete, or you might be okay with it. I'm not trying to change your minds on that subject. Mostly, I need to develop the record on this today. What I'm trying to do, offer information to everyone here, and especially the esteemed senators who are also members of the third oldest profession, to decline to take action on the resolution. This caution applies to every senator here, but especially to the lawyers who are also legislators. Rule 8.4, as well as the preamble and comments to the model rules of professional conduct, inform us that lawyers should not engage in undue or inappropriate influence on the administration of justice. If you don't already know of a case called Hecox versus Little, you should. That case challenges Idaho's Fairness in Women's Sports Act, and both the U.S. District Court and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals have found that that law is likely unconstitutional. That is why the law is enjoined before trial. The case now sits at the U.S. Supreme Court awaiting a decision whether that court will review the terms of the injunction, but the case has never been tried on the merits. If the Idaho legislature passes this resolution, it will prejudice the outcome of the Hecox case, and it will deny the plaintiff the chance to be heard by impartial finders of fact. Our organization is co-counsel for the plaintiff, Lindsay Hecox, and individual attorneys of record are tuning in today to learn the outcome of your vote. I'll stand for any questions.
Don't see any. Thank you for being in committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
April Cheney. Welcome to committee.
Hello, good morning. My name is April Cheney, and I'm here in Boise, Idaho. And I want to say it's extraordinary what the Boise State women's volleyball team did this past season, refusing to play San Jose State University with a male player on their roster. Not once or twice, but 3 times taking a stand to uphold the integrity of female collegiate sports, for their safety on the court, and for demanding fairness. Of course, this was at a cost of forfeits and a chance to make it to the NCAA championship. If forfeiting games for standing on principles isn't already hard enough, the players endure being cyberbullied, called transphobic, bigots, Nazis, told they are not educated enough, and harassed for saying biological truth. No amount of surgery or medication can change the DNA or chromosomes of your sex. The physical characteristics giving males an athletic advantage in sports at birth cannot be undone. Males do not belong competing in female sports. Thank you to BSU volleyball players, and thank you to the BSU administrators for listening to their players' concerns and having their backs. I no longer trust the NCAA and the Mountain West Conference because those governing bodies, they discredit female student athletes. NCAA and Mountain West Conference changed the forfeits and standings of the 2024 women's volleyball season to reflect what really happened and stop protecting men in women's sports. I am a mom of a Mountain West Conference women's volleyball player and lived firsthand through this nightmare season. the Boise State players of the women's volleyball team, and the BSU athletic department, especially the athletic director. You did the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being in committee. I don't have anyone else signed up. Is there someone that tried to, or we didn't get the information? Doesn't appear so. Senator Carlson, Representative Ehart, would you like to close? You want to flip a coin?
Mr. Chairman, good committee, and my good Senator, Senator Carlson, for being willing to carry this with us. Thank you. I'm not even going to try to refute anything. Mostly remember, we're here to honor that, the courage and the integrity of Boise State and the women's volleyball team. Make no mistake, again, our governor, our congressional delegation, they were also instrumental in what happened with our Boise State women. And I'm so proud to stand here as a former athlete, a former Division I women's basketball coach, who knows firsthand the biological differences. Women cannot compete against men successfully on the same given playing field. So thank you, Chairman, for hearing us. And I just remember Girls and Women's Day in sports. Thank you.
Don't see any final questions for you. Committee HCR-2 is before us. Senator Harris.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to send HCR-2 to the Senate floor with a due pass recommendation.
Motion by Senator Harris, second by Senator Adams, that House Concurrent Resolution 2 be sent to the Senate floor with a recommendation that it do pass. Discussion on the motion. Senator Ruckte.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be voting against the motion. I just wanted to take a moment to explain my vote. I actually think this is kind of a complicated issue. I understand why parents of females on the volleyball team would have concerns about this. I can see why you would wonder whether the NCAA has got it right. I in theory, can understand all those things. I'm trying to. And I suppose, see why the volleyball team taking the action they did is respected by the parents and others. I can see in theory why that's the case, but here's, at some point it gets heavily influenced with these social warfare issues, and to try to remove it from all the other things that we've done to the trans community over the years, the focus on bathrooms and the focus on their medical procedures. We've now just used this as another way of bashing the trans community. I mean, trans community, they don't become trans so they can use a different bathroom. They just want to use a bathroom. And they don't transition to get access to another sports bracket. They just want to play sports. In other words, they just want to be athletes. And trans people just want to be part of the community. I recognize having them participate in NCAA sports has some complexities, but our society has been really great at figuring out how to address those complexities when it comes to other minority groups. When we integrated blacks into the military, there were complexities. We figured it out. When we had black children attend white schools, there were complexities. We figured it out. Honoring a Jewish person's right in the military to practice the Sabbath day on a different day than Christians do, we figured it out. My time in the military showed me that respecting the rights of minorities only leads to a stronger society. And I think that's the case here. We are talking about 10 out of 510,000 NCAA athletes. It's pretty clear to me that what we're really doing here is we're adding another log to the fire of, social warfare against trans people. And for that reason, I'll be voting against this bill.
Senator Taves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. This is somewhat off topic, but not completely because it happened in this hearing. But my perception is that there was a veiled threat to a senator's livelihood if they vote a certain way in this hearing. And I think that's a disgusting tactic and not the way that I believe we should operate in the State House.
Well, if I missed that, I'm sorry, Senator. I didn't hear that. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Comments.
To speak in favor of my motion, this is simply a resolution. It's a resolution to honor the Boise State University's women's volleyball team, and I think it's a noble thing, and that's why I made the motion I did.
I don't see any other discussion. Again, we do have a motion by Senator Harris, second by Senator Adams, that HCR2 be sent to the Senate floor with a recommendation do pass. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Senator Ruckty will be recorded as voting no, and that motion does carry.